eModels.co.uk. Make something awesome.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello folks, Festa here from eModels and welcome to part 3 of the Yamaha Ténéré 660cc Paris Dakar bike. This episode we're going to be doing the final decals and the build up. So we're going to start by getting the decal that's been soaked in that bowl just behind me there. Just getting it free on the paper there so that it's pliable, and then we can lay that down on the fairing. Now the fairing's been coated with some UMP decal solutions from the set of 3, the normal, strong and extra strong. And then I'm using a brush pen to basically go over the decal just to lay it down. Again, just apply the decal solution to the tank. But on this tank, be really careful folks, because it's got a lot of undulations on it. So my main focus is going to be on where my left thumb is. I'm not worried about the bit on the right that's flapping like a bulldog's tongue, because we'll get round to that in a minute. But the key is lining this section up. And also the difficult part is as you come around this tank with this deep curve, you want to try and keep the line horizontal as best you can. So that's the key on this one. And then use your brush pen there just to brush that right down. I'm going to lay this on a bit of a cloth just so that I can eyeball it. And then I've put the seat panel across the back because again, you've got another decal that comes down from the back of the tank and you want to continue them lines down so that you can marry it up when you join it together. On the frame, this stripe continues all along the length of the bike. So you want to try and marry it up as best you can, like that. And then that will leave me one little line then that will wrap round its arris, just like so. So just hold it in place with your pinky and then work your way along. Now I should be going over this with various different strengths of the solution where it needs it. And then just tuck any decals in any panel lines. Let the main decal go down, and then if you do need to do any fettling, that's when your extra strong comes in and you can really work that decal into the curves and the panel lines folks. So we've just got a few more decals to go on here. Obviously the Yamaha branding across the top there and a few little warning signs and things like that around there because you've got fuel tanks and all of that going on. A few sponsor decals to go on. Obviously the name of the bike itself, the Teneré, Teneré, however you want to pronounce it. And then you'll have a few more sponsor decals going on in various places just to finish this tank unit off even. A few more little sponsor decals going on just there. Surprising how many decals are on this bike. You wouldn't think it really. But it is a really spectacular model, this. This is the 1/9 scale Italeri, folks. And I must admit, I'm really pleased with how this has gone together. It has been a really good kit to do. Got the number section going on the plate on the side. I want to get the backing down first before I apply the number. So I want this to really go down. I'll probably leave it overnight. We'll see. We'll see how it goes down. So they've had time to dry, and then we can now go in with a little bit of strong just to start bedding some of these down. And I'm just brushing over the entire decal and I'm trying to sink it down into the panel lines. I don't want to go too brutal at the moment. I'll try some strong just to see how that goes. And then if there's any particularly stubborn ones, that's when the extra strong will come out, and that will basically dry slap it into any panel gap that it needs to conform to. And pay particular attention to the curves on that tank, because you really want that decal to follow them curves but also lay down. And then get yourself a nice cotton bud, just rolling it along the decal just to caress it into place. And that is all you really need to do on this, folks. And then obviously when you're done for the day, let your day's work dry. And then we're doing the same on the other side as we've just done. Same process. And now we can get back on to tubing the brakes. Again, cut your tube to the appropriate length. That's why I've got the ruler there. And then you're just gluing them to any pegs on the handlebars, engine, anywhere like that. Simple bit of extra fin on any of the pegs and these tubes will go into place, folks. They're really straightforward to do and you can't go wrong on them. So we'll just rest that up there for a minute and then we can start looking at some of the internal pipes that go from the tanks, breather boxes down into the carburetors there, because it draws air in through the front between the tanks through a big vent. Loads of filters in there to stop all the sand from clogging the engine up. And then we'll quickly whop some decals on the swing arm there. Again, a couple of sponsor decals to go on, and it'll be the same process on the other side. I tend to line them up with my scalpel. Just makes it easier for me to move them. And then drop a cotton bud over them just to wick up any excess solution and let the decal start dropping down. And we'll repeat that on the other side, folks. Right, we've got some bags now that are attached to the rear end just behind the rider. So we want to start dry brushing these now. We've got the base colour down of Mournfang Brown. And we're just going to use another lighter shade just to start dry brushing these bags, just to give them a little bit of depth, a little bit of colour variation, etc. So that's what we want to do. Work your way around the bag, just catching any little creases, leaving obviously the darker colour in the recesses. And then once this is done, it'll have a wash anyway. A little bit of Ballor brown going on. Just capturing them edges just to bring a little bit of light to the edges there. It doesn't need a lot. Hopefully it's coming out on camera, but in front of me it's showing up quite nicely, so I'm quite happy with how it's going. I'll keep it going until you get to the point where you're happy. And then we can just paint these straps in with a little bit of Abaddon black straight out of the lid. But I've pre-thinned this paint, so I tend to put a bit of Lamia medium in each pot, just so that I can literally brush paint straight from the beak. It makes it easier for me. Evil Sun Scarlet. Then we can start doing a little bit of dry brushing on this seat. I'm going to use a few little different shades, various reds, right down to an orange, just to bring out a little bit of texture. And then it'll all be done with a little bit of Bloodletter's red, like so. Just to give it a wash, and that should now pull all them reds together. Just want a little bit of subtle variation on it, not a lot, but I want it to look like the seat's been sat on. Right, let's do a bit of bluing on this exhaust. Obviously, it's going to have a fair bit of bluing round this, because it's going to be thrashed from within an inch of its life going across the desert. And of course, it's in a hot climate, so it is going to warm up and get really hot. And yeah, so the exhausts will blue up quite nicely. So I'll just rub in the Tamiya weathering set around these pipe bends. If you go too dark or too blue, you can always go over it with a darker pigment just to knock it back a little bit. We can wipe it off. And then once this is all weathered, I then mist over it with a very, very light mist coat of matte varnish, just to keep it in place, stop it rubbing off basically. But use the shades to your advantage. You've got obviously your blue, you've got your orange there, and you've got your soot. So use them to your advantage. And weather it to a colour that you're happy with. But this poor old Yamaha has been proper mullered through the desert. So probably had Charlie Borman riding it, pulling wheelies every 5 foot. So yeah. I come around this bend on the inside of this pipe, just start knocking that blue in. And in between it, we can then go with the orange, just start blending the two together. That's what I try to do. You do as little or as much as you choose. It's your model, folks. And like I say, once it's had a matte varnish, it does blend it down a nice little bit as well. So, fair old bit of makeup brush on there, just to brush off any excess deposits. And then I'm looking for welds and little areas that I can just do a bit of bluing on. Now we come in with the orange and start applying that just between the blue. But feather the edges as well so that you don't end up with a rainbow effect. So work it across both colours. And it will start taking shape. And again, if you go too far, you can wipe it off. Start again. But I kind of want this to look heated and blued and just stand out a little bit, because you're not going to see a lot of the exhaust once all the tanks and that are on. But you want it to catch your eye as you're looking around the model. And this model obviously will be going up to eModels and be sitting under their counter. So of course where you're stood, you're going to be a couple of foot up from where the model is. So I want to exaggerate this just so that it catches your eye from that distance. So that's why it's a bit bolder than I would normally do it. So again, you just think where your model's going to sit in your man cave, in your hobby room, wherever you've got it placed. And it's a 2 foot test. If you want it to be seen from 2 foot away, exaggerate it so that it catches your eye from that distance. That's all you want to do. Just deposit that around the knuckles there, like so. Bring that right up to where the bluing starts. And then we can start then feathering it out, like so. And already it's beginning to knock some of that blue back a little bit, which is what we want. Like that. It's surprising how different motorcycle exhaust on different bikes can all blue at different rates. It's quite interesting. I tend to spot this whenever I'm out and about. I always look at the exhausts on motorbikes. Out comes the phone, taking the pictures. You know, a few of the fellas that own the bikes will often say, "Oh, what are you taking the pictures of me bike for, mate?" I go, "I'm a modeller, mate." You know, so if they're there, ask them. They won't mind. But yeah, and then you explain to them weathering and all of that lot, and they're like, "Ah, right," because they might think you're trying to lift their motorbike at the end of the day. So I was polite to ask. And I'm just going to quickly orange the rear end of this exhaust as well, just to try to give it a little bit of depth. Like so. There you go. And then that, when it's placed on the bike, will stick out like the proverbial blind cobbler's thumb, which is what I want. And flick off any excess with the makeup brush. My wife will be looking for this set of brushes, no doubt, and it'll be like, yeah, I haven't had them, love, honest. Yeah. And just quickly now, just touch up any little bits that I feel need a bit of more detail. But look at that. Like I say, 10-15 minutes, done. Right, let's have a look now and start putting some of the decals on the seat there, and then test fitting that on the seat unit. And I'm trying to line it up like the box art, get the decals in the right place. But it does pay to put the seat on the frame, because the frame itself, or the seat panel, got a slight little incline to it. So bear that in mind when you're putting the seat decals on, folks. I'll just move that along a tad. I want to try and line it up roughly to the edge of the number. And do the same on this side. We can start then looking at building the rest of the bike up, because the tank is on, as you can see in the background. Bit of a fiddle, but it will go on. So bear that in mind, folks. I dropped the front end off of mine just to engage the front end of the tank on its pin, because I made the mistake. I had joined both my halves together at the beginning. And yeah, if I was to do another one, I'd keep it in the two halves, to be honest with you, make it easier for myself. I just want to line that up, squeeze that in place. I've got all my eyes of seeing this on at the moment. I just want to start now putting a few pipes up underneath there, because you've got 4 pipes that come up just between the backbone of the frame and the tank. And you've got to put them on the little pegs, on the little petcocks on the tanks there. So do that before you put the seat panel on, because you won't get them on otherwise, folks. Don't forget, if you want to grab this kit, there is a link in the description below. Head over to eModels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all of your model making needs, and grab one of these and have a go at building one. Use this video as a reference so you can sit and watch bits of it. If you're a new modeler, perfect for you, isn't it? But just use it as a reference and build along with me. Why not indeed? I'm just going to let them dry, and then we'll come back and we'll attach that a bit more firmly in a sec. And it literally engages under the tank there, and you've got 2 little lugs that pop each side of that, and then you put the screws in to secure that unit. And then what I tend to do with my screw heads is I go back then with the frame colour, and I'll drop a little bit of the red on the screw head just to blend it down. But just want to put a little bit of glue on that front peg and on the sides there, just to glue that in place. It just gives it a little bit more strength before the screw goes in. Like that. Pink. Bob's your uncle. But it's already beginning to take shape, folks, isn't it? And I am going to be doing a light bit of weathering on this bike. So I will do another episode where I'm doing the weathering on the bike, on the tyres, etc. And then I'll do a little quick desert vignette to stand the bike on, just to give it something to stand on. Because I think it needs it. Oh, yeah. But then I've got to think where eModels are going to store it. So, yeah. I'm tempted to do a little bit of a desert vignette for it. It doesn't have to be big. So, yeah, not a big, massive scene, but just something to put it on. So we'll see. I might just do a strip of styrene, a little bit wider than the bike, with a bit of sand on it, a bit of detritus, and leave it at that. So I'm using my little claw of kindness to put my screws in, because it's my easiest way of picking them up. It's just a little jeweler's pickup tool, basically, is all it is. It just lets me pick the screws up and then line them up with a hole, give them a little turn before the screwdriver goes in. Do that nice and tight, folks. There you go. I want to make brum brum noises already, but I can't, because it's not got a front fairing on yet, but I will do at the end. I can guarantee it. So you've got your little fuel caps there with the breather hoses hanging off the front there. We'll just pop that on. We've got a little map as well that we've got to put on as well. So we'll just pop that in place and let that stick. And in the meantime, we can go around with various washes just to do some of the metals, just to give them a little wash, just to make them colours pop a little bit, as you can see. Just brings a little bit of contrast and variation to the bike, I think. It's just my own personal preference. I just think it gives it a little bit of pizzazz. Same with any brass work, copper work, anything like that. I'll just give it a little wash of Cassandora yellow. And it, yeah, for me, it just makes it pop. Right, so that's the exhaust on. It's looking rather splendid under there. Just putting a little dab of glue just to hold that in its bracket, like so. There's a little peg under there, so. And that'll just sit there now quite happily under its own tension. There's the little map, and I've stuck a bit of smear tape inside it, rolled it up and drew a little map on it. And it just looks like you've got the route for the bike with the stages of that day's riding. Just brings a bit of interest to it. We've got the wing mirror covers to go on. Or the handlebar covers, should I say, the brake lever covers. There you go. Got a couple of ear holes sticking out, ain't they? Got a couple of cow ears, ain't it, flapping about. As long as the bike don't moo at me, I'll be happy. Right, we've got a couple of little brackets here to put some glue on. And we need to bring them right in at the front of the tank. There's a couple of little cutouts that these sit in. And I'm also just putting a little bit of glue around the edges where you've got a chamfer, in the hope that I can get this to marry up to the tank nicely. My main focus is the lines on the decals. And there you go. Look at that. Fairing is on. The bike is beginning to come near the end. I've just got the foot pedals to go on. But yeah, in the next episode, I am going to be doing the weathering on this. A little bit of light desert sand around the wheels and things like that. Just to bring it a little bit into context. Yeah, it'd be nice to keep it shiny, but it is a Paris Dakar bike at the end of the day. And it would have been thrashed between, different stages. So it's going to get sand and detritus on it. And I kind of like that look. So come and join me for the next episode. We'll leave it there. Bye-bye for now.